You knew they were monitoring for resistance, disagreement, and subtle efforts to make life just tough enough to shatter you. It was all part of the game. Then something changed. The shadows that had before trailed you around disappeared. The strain that once threatened to crush you has been replaced by something even more sinister. Admiration, opportunity, access. The same system that attempted to obliterate you is now welcoming you with wide arms. Why? Because they've discovered something frightening. You cannot be stopped. They see who you've become. They can see the fire in your soul, the heavenly purpose imprinted on your spirit. They now want to take it as their own. They cloak their shackles with wealth, believing you'll mistake servitude for advancement. But you were not designed to be governed. You are not just another piece in their game. You are the disturbance. They never accounted for the warrior. They couldn't shatter the brightness. They were unable to extinguish. This is when the real struggle starts. I am not against intimidation, but against assimilation. Because failing to survive the battle is the ultimate test. It is rejecting to accept a throne in a country that you were never meant to serve. This is your proving ground right now. Stand firm. Take your spot. Lead the charge. The army moves in response to your commands. The calculations were completed long before you knew you were a part of their equation. From the start, you were an outlier, something they couldn't anticipate, an uncontrollable variable. That's why the hurdles occurred. A passage that seemed to be open suddenly closed before you reached. Allies departed without explanation, and those you trusted issued warnings filled with uncertainty. The machine they created does not disclose its foes. It merely provides quiet pressure till they disappear. But you did not disappear. You pressed on despite the fissures, weathering every silent assault, each trap placed against you unraveling before it could take them. Your perseverance was never part of their plan. And when you refused to be wiped, the rules altered. The powers who wanted to repress you are now extending their hand. No longer antagonistic, but inviting the threat softens into persuade. Resistance transforms into opportunity. Their nature is not purely destructive. It's assimilation. What they cannot destroy, they try to absorb. There was never any sense of randomness about this. Each difficulty was a test. Every difficulty. They revised your endurance measurement after seeing it, and it became evident that you were not going to break. They modified their strategy. When the prey is no longer prey, the hunter stops pursuing it. It becomes something worth capturing for another reason. Isolation was intended to push you to the fringes. However, as you remained standing, they refocused their efforts. The same people who locked you away now claim they always saw your potential. Success was only recognized when it became evident. This is when the strategies changed. The opposition disappeared. Resistance was disbanded. Instead, there was adoration shrouded in strategy. They discussed your strengths, inherent abilities, and predestined path. But this is not a celebration of your accomplishment. This is a move. Those in authority do not extend their grasp without reason. And if they suddenly want to involve you, it's not out of respect. It's out of necessity. Years spent pushing through shadows, facing unsaid hurdles and subtle rejections. None of this was a coincidence. The goal was weariness, a steady degradation designed to wear you down. And just when the weight should have crashed on you, the message arrived. An invitation, a gesture, an acknowledgement that has never been before. The same people who turned you down suddenly claim to recognize your value proposition. What was previously concealed from you? Access, resources, visibility. The reversal is portrayed as acknowledgement, but it is really something very else. If you were actually intended to ascend, why did they just come forward now? Where was their support when every step ahead was a struggle? The reality is simple. It was never about rewarding your efforts. It is all about control. They perceive your reach, growing your might, and emerging outside of their legal pseudo-authority is harmful. So they do not oppose it. They integrate it. They don't wait for a storm to gain strength. They reroute it, mask its confinement as elevation, and bound it with riches instead of shackles. They put the contract before you like a gold-draped shrine, talking of all the wealth it contains. No more effort or waiting. Everything you've battled for is right there in your reach. But something deeper is stirring inside you. Something old, wonderful. This is not a blessing. It is a transaction. And the currency? It's not money. It's also not about power. It's something immensely grander and everlasting. If the prison walls are invisible, a guy may be unaware that he is trapped. Slaves do not notice their shackles if they are made of comfort and praise. The snare is slight, wrapped in silk and lured with the same wants you once begged for. This is not an assault. It's a seduction. They will not seize you by force. They make you want to enter gladly. They do not strike you down. They stretch a hand that seems graceful yet glides like a snake in the grass. Initially, there is nothing but ease. Doors slide open effortlessly. Voices of influence call your name with respect. The people who formerly opposed you are now in awe, speaking about your genius, destiny, and position among the selected. They give you a place at the table and a throne in their realm. But it is not a kingdom founded on the truth. It's a kingdom of compromises. The world they dominate is based on shifting sand. However, they offer you stability. It is based on deceit. Yet they guarantee you vision. But what is the actual cost? The phrases will never be uttered directly or written in black and white. They are whispered between the lines, under the weight of anticipation. At first, the asks with a little grin. When instructed, alter your wording somewhat. Soften the message a bit. Do not talk about topics that make people uncomfortable. Do not ask what they are celebrating. It seems innocent, even strategic. However, the little alterations accumulate over time to become something unrecognizable. You awaken one day and discover the reality. You are no longer on your intended course. You're treading in their footsteps. You were not invited because they valued you. You were invited because they spotted something in you that they could use. Your name carries weight. Your presence attracts notice. Your influence extends where theirs does not. They don't need your voice. They need your obedience. They do not intend to collaborate with you. They want to possess you. They do not lift. They devour. If your heart is filled with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and donate $1 or more to sow seeds of faith that will touch countless lives. Your giving exemplifies His richness. Be a channel for His grace and watch His kingdom grow through you. As a result, the decision is set out in front of you, as it has been for countless others. You may accept anything they give. Step inside their system. Enjoy the money, adoration, and acclaim. You may persuade yourself that you will not change, that you will keep your identity, and that you will navigate their world without losing yourself. But it is the worst illusion of all, because no man enters a wolf's lair and emerges with the heart of a lamb. They will convince you that this is what you were designed for. They will tell you that you are moving into your higher calling. But the spirit inside you knows otherwise, because genuine elevation does not come from their tables or circles. They are wealthy. It is not the result of secret arrangements. From connections that require your quiet, to riches that tax your soul. It came from the person who phoned you before they even knew your name. This is why they fear you, because they understand you are not theirs to claim. The army does not prostrate before the adversary. The selected do not submit to the counterfeit. This is the moment of choice. Choose carefully. Enemies seldom approach with fire and fury. They don't burst through doors with apparent threats. This is not how control is built. They do not seem to be opponents, but rather allies clad in power, extending hands wrapped in certainty. They pitch themselves as gurus, visionaries, those who sense potential and just want to foster it. Their phrases are polished and easy. Your work is fantastic. Your path is evident. We want to help you go even farther. And with that, they are no longer remote powers, but valued confidants. It begins with an introduction, a meeting over quiet whispers, an invitation to places few have been, and a fortuitous encounter with persons whose names transform doors into portals. There is no force or pressure, just access and acceptance. They don't push. They force you to take the initiative and go ahead. Because this isn't about forcing submission. It is important to ensure that when you give in, you feel you did it voluntarily. They pay great attention to how you think as much as what you do. What drives your convictions? What keeps you up in the night? Then, without a ripple, they mirror your essence back to you. Their language is indistinguishable from yours. Their aims seem to coincide with yours. Their promises reflect the goals you've always had. You don't need to alter. They reassure you. This is only a natural move forward. It seems smooth, comforting, and even unavoidable. Until the distortion occurs, it is small and scarcely apparent. A little change in the way you express yourself. A seemingly insignificant change in narrative was never required, but rather indicated before you could identify the exact instant it occurred. You look back and realize that the future they portrayed was never actually yours. It was theirs all along. Observation was never passive. Every move you made was quietly scrutinized. The walls had eyes. The quiet contained recollection. A private notion whispered exclusively in the privacy of your head enters the lips of a stranger. A pattern in your decisions is reflected back to you in ways that are too exact to be unintentional. They call it chance, coincidence, or anything other than what it is. But you can see through it. You always have. For a time, it seems like relief. The conflicts, the roadblocks, the never-ending struggle, they all seem to disintegrate into an open door. The hands that once pulled you down are now lifting you up, providing you everything you fought for and were denied. However, something is out of place. A sensation, subtle and persistent, gnaws on the borders of your thoughts. You deny it at first, attributing it to fatigue and a residual distrust stemming from years of adversity. However, the discomfort does not fade. The air thickens with an energy that you cannot identify. The space around you changes in ways that words cannot describe, and you sense it. The prepared rhythm of their discourse, and the fact that friendliness is a touch too deliberate. Their support was laden with anticipation. Every offer, invitation, and whispered promise is not a demonstration of charity. This is a test. They are watching. They measure. They wait. How far are you prepared to bend? How far can they push you before you resist? And as the illusion crumbles, you may see what was buried behind the gold. This was never about emancipation. It was a deal disguised as success. A golden chain encircled your liberty, wealth, influence, and position. It was never intended to be yours to wield, but rather to wear. The option is obvious and unambiguous. Accept and yield, or resist and stay untamed. Because once the door is locked behind you, the cost is not just in what you say or do, but also in the quiet you must maintain. They believed they did. You believed they had set out a route so enticing and wonderfully designed that you would walk straight into it without thinking twice. However, they miscalculated because you were never for sale. They arrived with gold-encrusted proposals that spoke of prosperity and destiny. You recognized the deal for what it was. Glory comes at the expense of your soul. A lion will not bargain with hunters. A ruler doesn't beg to sit at a table designed to subjugate him. They anticipated hesitancy, a moment of weakness, or a flash of uncertainty. But instead, they encountered something they couldn't influence: conviction. And that's when their strategy came apart. Initially, they performed well in the position. Smile, praise, and welcome. They called. You have picked a leader, someone too crucial to overlook. Their appreciation seems genuine. The invite seemed earnest. And, for a little time, it seemed that the conflict had ended. The effort, the resistance, the invisible wars that dragged on your spirit seemed to disappear. But that's the issue about dishonesty. It always comes clothed as a response to your prayers. They recognize their methods have failed, that you are not motivated by riches, that you do not want prestige, and that you will not bow for favor. The change was instantaneous, where there had previously been warmth. Now there is apathy. They once dubbed you a rising star. They now talk as if you never existed. The doors that formerly swung open so readily are now closed before you can reach them. The people who used to chant your praises no longer recognize your name. They don't fight you with blatant threats. They obliterate you via quiet because this is their last plan. If they cannot possess you, they will pretend you never existed. But here is the reality. They never considered you and never needed their doors. You've never wanted their approval. They were never the ones who created you. They will never be the ones who break you. They think that power derives from control. They think that possession equals influence. But what frightens them, what shakes them to the core, is that true power cannot be purchased. They've spent decades crafting the rules, selecting who rises and who falls, and who gets to speak out. But now, in front of their eyes, their fantasy is dissolving because you went away and continue to rise. The system was never designed for folks like you. It was designed for people who are willing to submit, to sell their fire for comfort, and to be strong inside the machine, rather than those who were born to bring the whole system down. Allow them to pretend you are not present. Allow them to whisper behind closed doors. Allow them to tighten their hold. They're scrambling to hang on to a world that's slipping through their fingertips. It makes no difference since, in the end, they are just transitory. But it's your call, your mission, the fire inside you. That is everlasting. Stand firm. Let them observe the selected. Do not beg for the throne. They construct their own. At first, it seems subtle. I missed calls. Invitations were forgotten. Glances that don't last as long as they previously did. Then the weight becomes sharper. The storyline switches. Rewritten without your permission. Those who formerly lauded your name are now hesitant. Their statements were infused with deliberate detachment. A whisper in my right ear. A proposal weaved throughout the discussion. And then the image they helped establish starts to splinter beneath the storm they created. They portray it as a fall from grace, a tragic unraveling. But you know the truth. It's vengeance for disobedience. However, they made a mistake by trusting in their approbation. Has somebody ever defined you? They didn't make you. As a result, they are unable to unmake you. Their authority is over doors, not destiny. Their effect is limited by one's belief. And you've looked beyond the illusion. That is what disturbs them. Not your rejection, but what it reveals. Their power is fragile. Their rule was based on the illusion of omnipotence. And when the dust settles, they'll realize their biggest mistake was not losing you, but failing to break you. They framed it as an honor, a rare invitation into an inner sanctuary where only a chosen few are permitted admission. A brotherhood based on trust, a network of allegiance. At least that's how they present it. But underlying the polished phrases comes something considerably less noble. This is not an acknowledgement of value. It's an appraisal of usefulness. You are not getting promoted. You're being measured. These rings don't distribute electricity. They consolidate it. They do not desire equality. They want instruments. Initially, it looks to be a privilege. The doors open without inquiry. Opportunities arise without effort. Alliances emerge without any effort. They inform you that you have been picked, that you belong, now that you've attained their level. However, the illusion unravels as you get farther within. It's not about accomplishment. It is all about possession. They do not provide access to empower you. They do so to assess what you are willing to give up. It begins quietly. Minor oath and tiny favors. Agreements that seem innocuous. Then expectations alter. A period of stillness when the truth is needed. This is an unnecessary compromise. A demand that increases over time. You begin to notice things that others neglect. Those who opposed are tossed away. Their names became warning murmurs. Their work was silently deleted. Those who accepted stay. But something is lacking. Their words sound rehearsed. Their beliefs faded. Their fire turned to embers. They have influence. They are at the highest levels. However, they are simply traces of what they once were. Because once the barrier is reached, there is no simple way back. And when the truth becomes evident, so does their motivation for seeking you out. It was never about providing protection, never about giving status. It was about neutralizing what they couldn't control. They arrived disguised as comrades. However, you recognized the wolves under the womb. They talked in terms of elevation, legacy, and relationship. But their hands were never extended to raise you, merely to draw you in. They never wanted you free. They intended to tame you. Wildfires cannot be controlled, only quenched or confined. When they realized they couldn't snuff you out, they did what they usually do. They altered their strategies. There is no more opposition, no more open assaults. Instead, they give you a place at the table. They provide adulation, status, and promises of a future so big that it almost seems predetermined. Their contracts never include a destiny clause. It's inscribed in your calling. And you are not meant to be absorbed into their system. You are called to overturn it. They never considered you an equal. They never honored your journey. This invitation does not imply acknowledgement. It's a strategy. They feel they can neutralize you by embracing your voice rather than suppressing it. They've done this before. They understand that when they are unable to overcome something, they immerse themselves in it. They don't destroy, they reroute. Nevertheless, they do not comprehend you. They believe you're hunting for validation. They believe you desire a position in their kingdom. They believe you want what they constructed, but they are misinformed. You are never intended to inherit their empire. You are supposed to bring it down. The world they dominate is based on illusion, and that illusion is fracturing. For far too long, they dominated the game, controlling both the hero and the villain, ensuring that no matter who the world followed, the outcome stayed constant. They did not just construct an empire. They created the resistance to that empire. They conceived the fight and marketed both sides of the conflict. And now they want you to join their ranks. It's not because they believe in you. They don't trust you because they're afraid of what will happen if you stay out of reach. They think control equals influence. They feel that access equals power. What they fail to realize is that true power does not need permission. They never had influence over you. They never had you in their hands. That is why they have shifted from conflict to conversion, from silence to absorption, and from rejection to acceptance. Because they view it as a change, a rupture, an unraveling of what they have spent centuries creating. And yet, they believe they can purchase you. They don't know what you already know. There is no price that is sufficiently high to warrant purchasing. What does not belong to them? Let them extend their hand. Allow them to mask imprisonment with riches. Allow them to assume that access to their world is something you want. It makes no difference since they are ultimately bound by the bonds they give. And you were never supposed to wear them. The picked don't beg for a throne. They were born to command. But this time, the approach backfired. You did not accept their conditions. They used every tactic in their arsenal: erasure, persuasion, and promises wrapped in gold. And still, you refused. Their impact only extends to those in need. But you never did. When they learned you were untouchable, the veneer crumbled. The terror is apparent now, hidden in their hurry, changing narratives, and desperate efforts to recapture territory that is slipping through their grasp. They have shaped the rise and fall of many personalities, created tales, and molded legacies. Delete those who dared to venture beyond their box. However, they have never understood how to deal with someone who does not ask their permission or bow at their shrine of approbation. What they dread the most is not your disobedience. It's the fact that it works. You wander beyond their corridors, and yet your reach expands. You reject their affirmation. Nonetheless, your impact extends. They own money. They have visibility. They have all of the trappings of authority. But you have something that can't be produced: truth. The truth is an irresistible force. It cannot be concealed under trends. It cannot be rewritten with propaganda. It cannot be subdued. Those who live by deceit constantly assume they will govern indefinitely. However, history reveals a different tale. False thrones are doomed to fail. They understand this. They sense it in every fracture growing under their foundation, in every movement beyond their control. They have spent a lifetime creating the appearance of permanency. However, they do not possess the quality of permanence. Their time is running out. This is why people turn to you. They are losing control, not because they believe in your vision or admire your fortitude. They are well aware of this. They spent millennia creating illusions, manipulating reality via deceit, dictating narratives, and ensuring that every rise and collapse fit their goal. However, they did not construct you, and this makes you untouchable. What they cannot mold, they cannot control, and what resists control becomes a danger. Their strategy has altered. Force is no longer their preferred weapon. They don't try to knock you down. Instead, they issue a golden invitation. They promise security, a permanent reputation, and a place among those who shape the course of history. Surrender, however, confers no authority. Those who came before you know this reality. Some were reared in luxury before walking away. Others were given influence, but chose conviction instead. And now you're standing at the same crossroads. The foundation. They established their empire via manipulation and deception, and fear is collapsing under them. It was never your responsibility to maintain it. They need you more than you will ever need them. While their world crumbles, you stay unaffected. Every effort to entice you in. Every demand for acquiescence. Everyone expects quiet. You defied them all. And with each rejection, their illusion of power crumbled deeper. They could sway public opinion, influence the course of events, and command the devotion of many, but not yours. That is power, not the sort they give out, but the kind they cannot take. Your strength was never based on riches or alliances. Never rely on their platforms. It is rooted in something beyond of grasp, something incorruptible. Each temptation avoided became a proclamation. Each route closed was a win. You stand where few others have, beyond of their influence and reach. Not because you outmaneuvered them. You didn't play the game to win, but because you refused to play at all. Their wealth was a phantom, their words a chain, and their power transitory. Nevertheless, you stay. Let them collect those who want acceptance. Let them cling to an empire that was never really theirs. Their grasp becomes weaker with each passing instant.